Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. My name is Eric. I am the ranting co host of Clutch Crew Sports. I'd like to welcome you into another episode here. We're doing another NFL season preview. In today's episode, I will be taking a look at the Houston Texans. If you've been around our channel for a while, you already know this, but if you're new to the channel, if this is your first time here, I am a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, as you can see with the hat. But I just want to go ahead and say, don't worry. I will be neutral. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be biased. I'm not going to be hating. I'm looking at the Texans from a neutral perspective, and I think my analysis will be pretty fair. So I just wanted to kind of preface the episode by saying that. And again, if this is your first time here, just the way I like to do these videos, I like to go through the key offseason moves that the teams made, whether players that left and players that they brought in, as well as then I take a look at their key storylines and then take a look at their schedule and just kind of give my outlook on how I think the team is going to do. So, with that being said, we'll get right into it here. The Texans overall were fairly busy, not as busy as some other teams. The Texans kind of spent a lot of their time bringing back a lot of the players that they already had, whose contracts were running out. They did lose a pretty significant piece on the defense. They lost Justin Reed. He went and signed with the Chiefs. They were replacing Tyrann Mathieu with him. But overall, for the Texans, while he was definitely one of their better players on the team, the Texans are in a rebuild right now. They don't need to be, spending a lot of big money on players right now. Their focus needs to be in the draft and, getting in a lot of young, fresh faces. So even though it sucks to see somebody of Reed's caliber leave, I don't think it's the end of the world for the Texans. And then if you take a look at their draft, this has just been a problem for them up until now recently with the Watson trade, but they're kind of just now getting over the suffering setback that Bill O'Brien put them through when he, kept trading away their first round picks and even some second round picks. And, it's just been really hard for the Texans to draft and, get some of these young future franchise pieces. But now that they gotten over those years of not having first round picks, and then they also were able to get 3 first round picks from the Browns in the Deshaun Watson trade. So the future of the Texans is definitely bright now that they're going to have all these draft picks. It's really key when you're a rebuilding team to acquire as many draft picks as you can. They're definitely valuable, especially those first and second rounders. So I think that's going to be a good thing for the Texans going forward. It's just that as of right now, they're still kind of getting over that Bill O'Brien phase. But they did have the number 3 pick in the draft, and they used that to bring in Derek Stingley, the corner from LSU. And he had a bit of an up and down time at LSU. Like sometimes he looked like, the best cornerback in college, and then, other times he kind of, disappeared, and then of course he had injuries. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I know a lot of people were saying that they should have drafted Sauce Gardner. I was one of those critics as well. I like him better as a prospect, but I don't think you can go wrong with Stingley either. I think he's going to be a good piece for them going forward, and hopefully he can, for the Texans, that he can, regain that form that he had when he was, looking like a franchise player. So he was definitely their most significant piece they brought in. And then I also just added a little bit more of an underrated move that they made. They brought in Marlon Mack from the Colts, and Marlon Mack had a couple problems in Indianapolis. The first being, he had some injury issues. And then, of course, the Colts brought in Nyheim Hines as a pass catching specialist. And then, of course, obviously, Jonathan Taylor, who's their star running back now. So there just wasn't a place for Marlon Mack on the Colts roster. And I think a lot of people forgot about him. But, when he's been healthy and, been able to be in the games, like, he's a really good running back. I think this is an underrated move that the Texans made. I don't think many people are talking about it. But I like the move, and I'm a Marlon Mack fan as a player. I just wish he wasn't playing on teams of my rivals, but as a player, I'm a fan of him. So definitely looking forward to see what he does for the Texans. As long as he does bad in the 2 games against the Jaguars, I'll be fine, and what he does in the other games. But anyway, so now we're gonna look at the key storylines. The first one, being about Davis Mills. He was definitely a surprise for me last year. When the Texans drafted him, I had zero expectations for him. I really thought that Tyrod Taylor was going to be the guy as more of a placeholder for a season or two, and then the Texans would eventually use a first-round pick on a quarterback in the future, and then whoever that person that they drafted would be the future of the team at quarterback. But Davis Mills was really arguably the best rookie quarterback last year. Mac Jones was pretty solid, but he benefited by having a much more talented team around him, and he still, even though he was the best rookie, was really more of a game manager. But Davis Mills, when he first started, he struggled. He was pretty bad at first, but he actually got really a lot better towards the end of the season, and I believe in the last few games of the season he had like a 10-4 touchdown to interception ratio, which with who the Texans had on their team at the time was really good. And so I guess this is my thing for the Texans going forward. I mean, this is why Davis Mills is such a big deal for their season this year. Let's say Davis Mills goes out there and he outperforms expectations. He plays well again, and leads the Texans to more wins than what they're projected. So yeah, then they're not going to have a top pick to get a quarterback. But if he shows that he is the guy, then they don't need to draft a quarterback. And then let's say on the other hand that he goes out there and he stinks it up, and the Texans have a miserable season. Well, then that's okay too in a way, because then that means the Texans will probably be in the top 5 of the draft, and be able to secure one of these guys. There's a lot of big names coming out in the draft at quarterback next year. They can get one of them, and then that can be their guy. So it kind of works out for the Texans either way. Like, if I'm a Texans fan, that's how I would be looking at it going into this season. And then secondly, the Texans moved Lovie Smith from their defensive coordinator. They moved him up to the head coaching position. And so my storyline with him, is just, does Lovie Smith have what it takes? I mean, he's had success with the Bears, but that was a good while ago. He didn't have a lot of success with the Bucks, and then he went and coached Illinois for a while, and I think he got to 1 bowl game with them, but obviously Illinois is not an elite college program or anything, but he wasn't able to turn them around. But however, when he did come in as the defensive coach for the Texans last year, even though their roster really didn't have as great a talent compared to a lot of other teams, he still stepped in and led them to some success. They had a great turnover ratio. They got after the ball. And while they weren't a great defense, I think their defense outperformed expectations last year. So that makes me wonder, can Lovie Smith get back to how he was as a coach with the Bears when they had some success, or is it just going to be the same old Lovie Smith of the last 6-7 years? So when he's been a head coach in the past. So I'm curious about how he'll do. I think out of all the teams that needed a new coach this year, I think the Texans were the only one that actually promoted somebody from within. I think every other team hired from the outside. So definitely curious to see how Lovie Smith's going to do. So looking at the Texans schedule now, I do think while there are some positives for the Texans, I do think that this is going to be a bit of a rough schedule. I mean, this isn't the hardest schedule in the league that I've seen so far, when doing these preview videos, but Obviously with them being in the AFC South, the AFC South is definitely one of the weaker divisions. Like with the Jaguars, I thought for sure the Jaguars were going to sweep the Texans last year, but then Houston swept us. The Texans have actually beaten my Jaguars 8 times in a row. I'm ready for that to end, but even though I think the Jaguars should beat them, I could definitely see the Texans, maybe splitting that. They could maybe, play sleeper and, maybe beat the Colts once or maybe beat the Titans once. They actually last year towards the end of the season beat the Chargers, and that cost the Chargers a playoff spot ultimately. So the Texans, like I said, they did have some success towards the end of last season, but I just don't know if I see it going forward. I mean, they've got the AFC West again, or they got the AFC West this year. I'm sorry, and that's like the most loaded division in football. They do have the NFC East, which is vulnerable. And then they've got some, more games that I could see possibly going either way, like maybe with the Bears, with the Browns, maybe. Like Watson's for now been suspended the first 6 games. Don't know if the league's going to appeal that yet, but so it's still a little bit of an uncertainty there. But overall, the schedule isn't terrible. But my only thing for me is I just don't think the Texans have done enough yet in terms of bringing in talent. Like I said earlier, they brought back a lot of their guys they already had, but a lot of those guys were playing on the same team that only won 4 games last year. And sorry, I just realized I did a typo on my slide here. This right here was supposed to be the 2021 actual win total, which was 4. So I do apologize for that. Anyway, sorry, I just caught that. But anyway, so I don't know. So for 2022, the Texans are projected to win 4.5 games, which is what they were projected to win last year, and then they ended up winning 4, which is what's supposed to be there. And I think it's going to be about the same as last year. I just don't think, like I said, I don't think the Texans made enough moves. I think they're lacking at talent in a lot of positions. They did do a little bit of work on their O line, a little bit of work in the secondary, but the secondary is going to be a lot of young guys. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains there. And they really didn't do anything to help Davis Mills offensively other than, said Marlon Mack, and, their running back room is different than last year, but I don't know. I don't see enough here for the Texans to make that push. I mean, obviously, I could be wrong on this. I was wrong on the Texans last year with the Jaguars. I thought the Jaguars were going to sweep them, and that ended up being the. I actually went to the game week 1 at Houston last year, and Houston obliterated us. That was terrible, but yeah. So I don't know. I just don't see enough of a talent increase for the Texans though to really make a push. But like I said earlier in the beginning, they have. They're going to have multiple first-round draft picks for the next couple years. I think they might even have multiple second-round picks. And, they get to find out if Davis Mills is going to be the guy or not. And with those other first-round draft picks in the future, and, they should have high cap room. They should be able to bring in free agents in the next year or two. I do think the future is bright for the Texans, but they're going to have to get through some growing pains first, I guess is the best way for me to put it. So, all right, you guys, well, that's going to wrap up the episode here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Texans fans, or regardless of what fan you're a team of, let me know how you feel about what I said. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below. We love to hear from you guys. And we're right around the halfway mark now, I guess. So we're making some progress through these teams. So we're getting through them. So. All right, guys. Like I said, that's going to wrap up the episode here. Thanks for tuning in. With that being said, peace.